Have you ever thought about what will happen when we run out of topsoil? Well, it's happening. I've been thinking about this for about a decade, and it's happening a lot sooner than I expected. So my question is, what are you going to do about it? Here's some thoughts. So the soil, when I say the soil, I really mean the top soil. It used to be about 2 feet deep in a lot of places. Now we're finding out, and we've known this since the 90s, that this is going to about 5 inches or less. And the nutrients that we're missing, we have to do something about that in our diet. So what do we do? What do we do, right? What I found, and I had this conversation with Chris Kresser at Paleo Effects last year, which was just based on the idea of, okay, so soil erosion's a problem, obviously, right? What's your solution? And we had a great conversation. What our solution at Upgraded Formulas has been is, and what I really feel like is a planetary approach, is first we get the people well, and we do that by extracting dense nutrients, putting them through industrial processes like ours that I've developed as a chemical engineer to get absorption to go from about 20% on average of the supplements you're taking when you find something off, the Whole Foods shelf, for example, or Amazon, and bringing that up to complete bioavailability. Now, you still have things like antagonism. Antagonism is when you have different nutrients. So you have iron colliding with copper, and this doesn't work, right? In fact, people ask about multivitamins all the time, and one of the ways you know the formulation is really bad is when you have iron in it. You should never have iron in your multivitamins. So to go back to this idea of what are you doing about it, right? What are you doing about it? The soil is depleted. If the soil doesn't have I'll say this again, if the soil doesn't have what you need it to have for the food that you're eating, then if this is your body, you're only getting some of the nutrients that you should be getting when you eat that, whether it's broccoli or steak, or it doesn't matter what it is. This is vegetables, this is the animals that eat the vegetables. All of it, it's essential. So when we think about this, for example, another fact is in the last 60 years, nutrients have gone down because of this problem by about 60%. So a steak has 60% less of nutrients than what it used to have. So we're banking on it, and we're thinking, oh, I'm going to get plenty iron, plenty manganese, and we're just not getting those nutrients, right? So, we're getting, if this is what we think we're getting a portion of it, right? And then sometimes we're getting even less than that. So we think that we're eating this banana, right? And we think we're getting all this potassium. Of course, we're also getting a lot of sugar, and there's other, sources of potassium, other foods that are high in potassium that have less sugar. But if the soil is depleted, we're only getting a little bit, and we're still getting plenty of sugar. This is one heck of a problem because, as I'll demonstrate right here, there is a ratio, sodium to potassium. So your potassium, this is an energy equation right here in your body that we test for at Upgraded Formulas. And we test for it because it's so incredibly important. Just think of anything you care about, your family, your life goals, how you look, how you age, what your mental clarity is like, how you sleep, if you're constipated, if you can go for a long run, if you can run the marathon, if you can compete in the sport you want to compete in. All of that is going to be dependent on, among other ratios we test for when we look at your hair, this ratio. So I hope this is helpful to think about and have as a reference when you're looking and you're making food choices and you're thinking about, should I buy organic, which is absolutely you should, and that helps. But organic or not, you're still in soil that is depleted. Organic is just what happens to what's happening above the soil. So there's a lot to discuss here, and I have some friends in the space that talk about different farming practices, which we should all be supporting. And I know it costs a little more to do this, to pay for, if you're eating meat, then buying meat that was raised using regenerative agricultural methods. That way the soil, this is done with a holistic approach. It costs more because they're doing more. They're doing things that are good for the planet long term. They're rotating crops. They're also rotating where animals are grazing so that that whole cycle of nitrogen is working really well, where the cows, for example, are eating the grass, pooping, moving on, fertilizing, and that whole cycle. And then now we're coming through later on and we're planting there. It turns out there's been some myths that I even thought were true for a long time, but the myth, we can call it the methane myth, for example, that the cows were the reason that global warming was an issue. It turns out, I forget the exact statistic, but it turns out that's a minuscule just issue. And in fact, what we need is animals that are fertilizing the soil to actually regenerate the soil. But that's a long-term problem that we need to be focusing on right now, but we need to have that mental clarity. We need to sleep well. We need to have the energy. And the way we do that, the way I've addressed that, is stabilized nanoparticles, which is another way of saying all of our products had upgraded formulas. These focus on a very targeted solution so that you can live your best life, so that you can have this energy, so that you can show up the way you want to show up in life, in work, in relationships, and crush it. So without that, I don't care who you are, caffeine is not going to get you there. Energy drinks are not going to get you there. In fact, they're going to deplete more and more and more. I'm not saying never have coffee, but I am saying pay attention to this. Pay attention to your nutrients. Do your tests. Do it quarterly. Get a consultation. Take action. If you do all of that and you let me know in the comments what videos you want more of, I'll be sure to do more of those videos so that we can all figure this out together and take the right action so that our soil goes from more and more repleted and instead of more and more depleted. This is essential. This needs your help. Please share this video if you thought this was helpful. If you haven't already, mash subscribe, hit like. Thanks for watching.